time or your first time in a long time, or you're watching online and you just think, I have done way too many bad things in my life to come in here. Don't worry, you hang around here long enough, you realize that we've done a lot worse things than you. We've outsinned you 10-1, so make sure you keep your purses closed in here.
Whoa. That is
This
right,
guy.
though. I did not burst into flames when I walked into church today. So, hey, we want to say welcome. This is the perfect weekend for you guys to be here. I've met people from Florida, from Greeley, all over just in this service. But it is our welcome party, ice cream, Sunday, fun day, weekend. Come on.
Hey, there we go.
Oh, man, and I get the drums. This
He's
is great.
excited.
No, now, what our welcome party is after service, this service, next door in our FLC, we would love to get a chance just to meet you. Stop on by for 5-10 minutes. Even if you don't like ice cream, our service here is only 1 hour today. You could stop by and still make downtown lunch just in time.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Hey, a couple other things we want you guys to know about. Our youth, our students, middle school and high school, we're going camping in 2 weeks, August 6th to August 7th. You can register online at steamboat.church/camping. It's going to be super fun. It's actually going to be more fun.
Did you guys see what he did there? You saw what he did there? S'more fun. No, honestly, if you have a teenager, if you know anybody who has a teenager, I have a daughter who's going into her freshman year. I know, pray for me or buy me a gun, okay? But I really want her to go, and so I really encourage you guys to have your students go. It's a good, clean, fun time where
it'll be awesome.
Where they get to hang out with some amazing leaders. Also, last but certainly not least, every month we have a prayer and worship night. It is creative, it is inspirational, it's interactive, and it's this Tuesday at 5:30 right next door in our FLC. It's a 60-minute prayer and worship night. We want you guys to come out. It's going to be live. The team's going to be there. It's going to be great. We believe here at SCC that prayer changes lives. Isn't that right, Kyle?
Yeah, it changes us mostly. So next Tuesday, be there. But hey, we invite you guys to stand up right now. We're going to sing a couple songs. We're going to get the energy pumping.
Let's go.
And then go into our last week of dealing with Cray. Let's go.
Hey.
When darkness tries to roll over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I own, when brokenness and pain is all I know, no, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken. 'Cause my feet doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love, and my feet doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love, and my feet doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love, yeah. Shame no longer hides a place to hide, and I am not a captive to the lies. I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. No, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken. 'Cause my feet doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love, and my feet doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love, and my feet doesn't stand a chance when I doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love, and my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear, 'cause my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love, and my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love, and my fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. I'm standing on your love. I'm standing on your love. I'm standing on your love. Hey! The weapon may be formed, but it won't prosper. When the darkness falls, it won't prevail. 'Cause the God I serve knows only how to triumph. Oh, my God will never fail. Oh, my God will never fail. And I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. And I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Yeah. There's power in the mighty name of Jesus. Every war he wages, he will win. And I'm not backing down from any giants, 'cause I know how this story ends. Yeah. Yes, I know how this story ends. Is I'm gonna see your victory. I'm gonna see your victory. For the battle belongs to you. And I'm gonna see your victory. I'm gonna see your victory. For the battle belongs to you. And I'm gonna see your victory. I'm gonna see your victory. For the battle belongs to you. And I'm gonna see your victory. I'm gonna see your victory. For the battle belongs to you, You take what the enemy meant for evil and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. the battle belongs to you alone. And I'm gonna see your victory. I'm gonna see your victory. For the battle belongs to you alone. And I'm gonna see your victory. I'm gonna see your victory. For the battle belongs to you alone. And I'm gonna see your victory. I'm gonna see your victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Yeah. Man, isn't it so good to know that there's a God out there that loves us, that takes our flaws, takes our failures, and he can use them for his glory. And he can turn it all for good. Amen. I want you to take a seat this morning.
I'd love to be able to do that, and I'd love to equip you to be able to do that. We're in this series right now dealing with Cray, which I'm pretty old. I'm the old guy in the house on our team, and I didn't even know what Cray was. I guess you have to be listening to Facebook or watching Spotify or something like that. And all those of you didn't get that? Yeah. Right. But yeah, dealing with crazy people. The first one was crazy over manipulative people. The second one was crazy overly critical people. And then thirdly, last week we were cray hypocritical people. And so today we are going to work on how to deal with crazy overly needy people. And so I'm going to tell you, all you need is to activate that two-letter word, right? N-O, no. And you just said it on your own, and I hope you felt the power behind that. So now that you're equipped, I think we can just close in prayer. And, yeah, people are ready to move on. Candace is excited about that. Yeah, you just wait, Candace. Well, no, we have to be able to say no a lot more spiritual than that, right? Because just no is just too hard. And so to equip you to say no spiritually, we're going to have John Chris help us a little bit. Check this out.
Okay, ways to say no. There are a bunch of them. No thanks, I'm good, I'll pass. One of my personal favorites, for sure no. I don't know if you knew this or not, but when you got saved, you got eternal life, forgiveness of sins, and access to a whole long list of ways to say no that'll make you sound like way more spiritual of a person than you actually are. I don't think it's God's will. It's just not his timing. I'm feeling led in a different direction. Let me talk to my pastor about that. It's a closed door. I'm waiting on the Lord right now. I just don't feel peace about it right now. God has a different assignment for me. I just didn't feel prompted. I just don't feel like that's something that Jesus would do. But I just feel like I'm not in that season anymore. Can you help me move this weekend? But normally I would, but I just feel like God is just telling me to rest right now. I just got a sense that it didn't line up. Right now I'm in a season of new wineskins. What does that even mean? I just feel like right now I'm in a season of creating margin and I just don't have the bandwidth. Are you even speaking English right now? I was just asking if you wanted to get a pizza. Prompting. How many times have I told you about the prompting? I'm not feeling the prompting. I don't know. I'm just not really feeling the Spirit's leading on this one. You know what? I'm not sure. Let me lay out a fleece on that one. Okay, I don't think anyone says that. And of course, everybody's all-time favorite, let me pray about it. All I'm saying is when it comes to Christian ways of saying no, just say no.
Say no, right? Yeah, I love that one. I'm going to pray about that one. For most of us, that's the first time we've prayed about anything, right? But let me pray about that one. So, we are all going to be dealing with overly needy people all the time. People who are always having a handout. They will never leave you alone. They're always trying to draw you into their drama. And when they're talking to you, this and this and this, and she said that and all that. And they're crying all the time. And everybody knows there's no crying in baseball. You don't cry. They're always fighting, or they're always trying to draw you into the fight. They're always making excuses and not taking responsibility for whatever their issues are, acting like a victim. Sometimes overly needy people don't even know that they're overly needy, and that's even harder. Most people who are overly needy don't know it's them. But when they do know it's them, it's really hard because they go ahead anyway. Overly needy. Now, I got to tell you that I'm either the best person you could talk to about saying no, or I am the worst. I'm not sure. My name's Charlie. I'm the executive pastor here, and every once in a while, about 6 months, I come out of my cave, and I get to talk to you. My normal thing is to help all the other pastors do what they do and help you do what you do. But when it comes to saying no, I'm either the guy to come out and help you with that, because I'm really good at saying no, or I'm so good I'm bad at saying no. I'm not sure. Every single personality test, and I've been through them all, if you're familiar with those at all, the DISC, I'm as high D, 100% D as you can be, actually. If you're in the Lit Tower, I'm as choleric as possible as you can possibly be. If you're in the Enneagram at all, I'm an 8. And an 8 means, you're shaking your head. You don't want to know from an 8 because I'm a challenger. Matter of fact, my team got me this cool mug. It says I'm an 8-hole. I don't want to leave that up there and just let everybody stew on that fact right there. But I have no problem. Yeah, the children probably need to leave for this one. That's probably a good idea. He just said 8, as in 7, 8, 9 hole. I'm your guy to tell you no. No problem at all. And so if you ever need any equipping, but you know what I'm going to do? As nice as it would be to say no to those people who are overly needy, I am going to help us learn to say yes. We're going to switch it around. And to do that, I want to talk about how Jesus handles overly needy people. And we're going to go to the pool of Bethesda, where he encounters a particularly needy person. And then after we answer some questions there that I think will help you, I'm going to tell you 3 stories that I kind of learned the hard way about how to say yes to people who are overly needy. You thought I was teeing you up to say no when you did it well, and it's actually harder to say yes, but let's give it a try. John chapter 5, there's a Bible in the back of your seat, or you can go to your app, or we'll have it on the screen. Jesus, in John chapter 5, says, afterward, Jesus, after he had healed another guy, the official's son, returned to Jerusalem. By the way, as I'm reading, here's what you ought to do. You think of your questions, because I'm more interested in the questions than the quick answers, actually. And there's a few things that I question and we're going to pull out that have to do with dealing with overly needy people. But the questions are more important because they lead to more questions. And I think behind those questions, it leads you to God. And so I think we're going to see something in the questions. So if I slow down, maybe there was a question right there. Afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. Inside the city near the sheep gate was the pool of Bethesda, with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. And when Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked him, "Would you like to get well?" "I can't, sir," the sick man said, "for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles. Someone always gets there ahead of me." And Jesus told him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." And instantly the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. But this miracle happened on the Sabbath. Did you get some questions going on there? Like, for example, let's just start off with, why is this pool called Bethesda? What does that mean? And does what that mean matter? Bethsaida? It's actually an Aramaic word, and it literally means the mercy of God. This place, this pool of water, actually 2 pools, is a place in Jerusalem right outside the temple, and it's called the mercy of God. Now, why is that interesting for that to be called, especially in light of what we're seeing right here? Here, at this place, the mercy of God, it was actually supposed to be a ritual washing place before people would go in the temple, so it would be a symbol of the mercy of God as they went into the temple. Actually, it's kind of interesting, isn't it, that the sheep gate, did you hear that sheep gate part? Well, why do they call it that? Because that's where they bring the sheep that they are going to sacrifice for the sins of the people. And as you're going by that, you see that, you stop at the well, the pool. Symbolically, you get washed in the mercy of God, and then you go into the temple. Now, why is that kind of interesting here? Because what's happening at this pool? It's surrounded by people who are lame, blind, handicapped, and in really dire circumstances. And the idea is that sometimes that water will swirl, and it's either happening supernaturally, or it's happening because they're letting water from the other pool in to clean it, or all that. And then maybe, just maybe, one time you'll be the guy who everybody else was sleeping, and there was somebody to help you into the water, and the idea is that you would get in there and you would be healed. And you would come out of the water healed and look at everybody else who's not healed and go, "Sorry, suckers. I was good to go today. Sorry you missed it." Matter of fact, the people who are sitting around the pool, I'm thinking, don't have many other options left. Right? This is that last trip to overseas with that illness, and you're just trying to take a stab at it. This is that last thing, because your plan is to sit around a pool, hope you can get in some stirring water, and maybe get some relief for your affliction. I don't think this is the pool of the mercy of God. I think this is the pool of, "Where are you, God?" I think this is the pool of, "How come it's not my turn, God?" I think it's the pool of, "Why isn't this fair, God?" I think this is the pool of despair. The very thing it's called is the very thing it's not. And I think that's kind of interesting. First, as we're looking at how we're going to say yes to the overly needy people, isn't it interesting that the setting for Jesus right here is in a place where there's not much hope? And it's a good place to start, just having compassion on the fact that a lot of the people that we encounter who are overly needy, whether they're needy from their circumstances or they're needy because of the mental anguish that's going on inside them, or both, and usually both, there are circumstances, and they're usually doing the best they can with what they have. And I think that's a pretty good place to start, actually. I can't get to yes if I'm judging them too harshly, because I don't care if I'm doing that. So let's just start off with the fact this is called the pool of Bethsaida, and it's nothing like that at this time. It's the pool of despair. All right, here's another question. Why so much attention to how long this guy's been here? One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. Why would that be important? Wow, this guy has been sick, and most likely at this pool, because that's the imagery you're getting, that it's at the pool, for longer than the life expectancy of the average male at that time. This guy has been at that pool hoping that maybe it would be his turn, or somebody would help him, or he would get his miracle for longer than Jesus has been on the planet at this time. That's significant. And It's also interesting, isn't it, that it says here that Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time. Well, how did Jesus know that he had been ill for a long time? Before you play the God card, he's omniscient, he's God, he knows everything. Actually, when you encounter Jesus in these books here, you are encountering a Jesus who's operating more in his humanness and how it works to be human. He's 100% God and 100% human. And when you see him interact with the world here, you're seeing him on the human side. He's not playing the God card. I'm omniscient and I know everything. And how did he know that? He experienced this before. This is not his first time being here or being in Jerusalem. Well, we know that from verse 1. It says, afterwards Jesus returned, which you can't return someplace if you weren't there in the first place, to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holidays. He'd been here before. I don't know how many times he'd been here before. Certainly within the previous year, maybe in the previous 2, or maybe a whole bunch of years leading up to this time. He's about 32 right now. He'd been here before. He'd seen this before. This guy here had been there a long time. He'd been there so long that everyone had seen him before. Everyone knew when you thought of the pool of Bethesda, everyone, oh, yeah, that's that guy, except for most of us who have turned him into clutter, where you just don't see it anymore. Sort of that moral yellow light that wants you to stop for a second, realize things aren't as they should be, but then you walk on. It's just sort of in the background. Everybody had seen him before and knew he was there, and that's one of those where you kind of walk by pretty quick. I was talking about this section of Scripture with Eric Ocampo, our Spanish pastor, a couple months ago. We weren't actually talking about this message. We were talking about needs. And he's in the right ground zero for meeting a lot of needs. And when I say our Spanish pastor, I don't know what image you get, but he looks like that guy. Eric, stand up real quick. Cool. Oh, you are standing up. Sorry. We're talking, and Eric, I said, how many times did Jesus encounter this guy before this event? Oh, he saw him when he was 12. It's off the top of his head. I'll bet he might have seen him when he was 12. You know what? That is brilliant. I bet Jesus, remember Jesus was in the temple when he was 12 with his family, and his family left him because he was pretty self-sufficient. And they forget, and 3 days later they find him in the temple and he's teaching all the scholars the law and everything. What did he do in that 3 days? What images did he get in that 3 days? When he moved around, what did he see in that 3 days? If you're like me, and maybe maybe he's a little bit like us, is the way to say that. When you see something that's disturbing, it sticks in your mind. It could have been 20 years that guy at that pool stuck in Jesus' mind. Okay, that brings up some other questions, doesn't it? If this isn't the first time Jesus notices this guy, then why didn't he respond like this before? That'll teach you something really incredible right there about meeting needs and how to say yes to overly needy people, is that maybe, well, why didn't he just meet the need? I thought Jesus meets every need. I hate to disappoint you. He doesn't meet every need all the time. Why not? And intuitively, you know that's true. Even if we say it's different, why does he do it sometimes and not other times? Why didn't he do it before this? Well, I think there's something in here, the answer to that, because he had seen it before. Matter of fact, I wonder how many times he prayed over a 20-year period when that image of this guy would come up in his mind and say, gosh, Father, that's just not how it ought to be. That place, it doesn't sound like your mercy at all. I wonder how many times. Well, there's a clue to the answer of how this works. So he says to this guy, right, pick up your mat and walk. And he picks up his mat and walks. And now, why is the mat so important? Well, you are not supposed to be carrying your mat on Saturday in Israel at this time, because that would be work. These must be heavy mats. No, if they're heavy mats, then why not leave it? You're not supposed to carry your mat on the Sabbath. That's one of the rules. And so these guys find, these rulers and teachers of the law find this guy who's carrying his mat on Saturday and say, hey, why are you carrying your mat on Saturday? And he answered, well, a guy told me to, but I'm walking. Wow, how did you miss this? They could care less about what happened to the guy. They care about that he's carrying his mat. That is even worse than the pool of despair. Religion, that's a weight to carry. So, what does Jesus say to them? They find Jesus and said, you told a guy to carry his mat on Saturday? That is a terrible thing. You are really a bad guy, and we are going to bust you on that. I just would like to point out how stupid religious laws are. I can't even, it's easy for us to see in hindsight. Might not be so easy to see like right now what we do related to this, because these guys thought that was pretty spiritual. And they needed to enforce that. So they tracked down Jesus and said, you told the guy to carry his mat. And he goes, well, yeah, I'm over in verse 14 or 13. They asked Jesus, Jesus had disappeared in the crowd. Then verse 14, but afterward Jesus found him in the temple, told him, I don't want to skip that part. We'll talk about it in person some other time. I'm trying to get to the Jewish part. It's too small to even see. They make bigger Bibles, I think. Verse 16, so the Jewish leaders began harassing Jesus for breaking the Sabbath rules. But Jesus replied, my Father, if you thought you were going to get in trouble for telling somebody to carry their mat, call God your Father. My Father is always working, and so am I. So the Jewish leaders tried all the harder to find a way to kill him, for he not only broke the Sabbath, he called God his Father, thereby making himself equal with God. And so Jesus explained, I tell you the truth. The Son can do nothing by himself. He does only what he sees the Father doing. Whatever the Father does, the Son also does. Now, you could look at this as this argument that's going on between the religious leaders and Jesus and try and understand that, and that would be important. But Jesus is commenting exactly how the thing worked at the pool. He's saying how it worked at the pool of Bethesda, either earlier that day or the day before. How did it work at the pool? He says, I only do what I see my Father doing. And then what does he do? He joins them. Right? So, these days prior, when he was maybe by the pool, maybe even 20 years ago, I'll bet he's having a conversation. That's not how it ought to be. Yeah, that's not how it ought to be. But maybe the night before or the morning there, he was reviewing his day with his Father. Do you do that? Review your day? What's coming up? Praying through it, who you're going to meet, what might happen. And we're going to go through the sheep gate into the temple, Father. Oh, the sheep gate, where all those sacrifices are being made for all the sins of the people. Whew, yeah. And then we're going to go, I wonder if the weight of that started to come to Jesus, that he would be that sheep, if you're not picking that up. And then they go by the pool in his mind as he's praying. The pool of Bethesda. Yeah, there's that guy. There's that guy there. Oh, it just shouldn't be like that. One day it's not going to be like that. One day it's not going to be like that. Today is that day when it's not going to be like that. All he did was what he saw his Father doing and stepped into it. And that was that day. That is significant when we're going to say yes to meeting people's needs. Sometimes you meet needs and sometimes you don't. Why one time and why not the other? Well, if you're full because you've been with your Father in this quiet place, you can walk with all the people and maybe you'll see what he's doing because you're full and you have something to give or something to bring. And Jesus was full of vision, full of faith, full of anticipation, full of peace. So now he walks in to whatever's going on that day with the fullness. Now, I would say, actually, the definition of needy would be empty. And so, a person who is empty, either for whatever reason, we encounter somebody who's full, something ought to happen. Something ought to happen. So to say yes is to be full. Maybe that's what John meant later, and Jesus said, I've come to give you life and to give it to the full. Not just so that you could go mountain biking and have a great life in steamboat, so that you could be full when you're around people who are empty and in the fullness of time. Step into it, and you actually become the answer in the middle of a pool of despair. That is really something. Saying yes. I think then I don't have to feel when I encounter someone who has nothing or is empty or in a rough spot, I don't have to feel guilty for having, coming from having a lot. Or even having, we come from a place of privilege. I don't have to feel guilty for having a place of privilege. It's not about trying to deal with the guilt. It's about having the fullness to take what I have from my place of privilege and put it into a situation where it's not. That's cool. Would you like to be a part of that? That's the yes. That's the yes right there. Oh, here's another question. This one's interesting. Jesus, the guy said, sees the situation, knows he's been there a long time. By the way, the point was sometimes you meet the needs, sometimes you don't. How do you know the difference? Because you're full, you're following God, bringing your fullness into the situation. Jesus, knowing that, turns to him and says, do you want to get well? Now, that might be the dumbest question I've ever heard. You're sitting there for 37 years outside a pool that you hope swirls at some point that you get in, and some guy comes up and asks you, do you want to get well? His answer is, I can't get into the pool. If I could get into the pool, I could get well. Obviously, Jesus, there's more to the question than just some dumb question. Like maybe he's calling something out here. He's not just Captain Obvious, right? That, in fact, there's something going on why do you want to get well? Isn't it interesting what he doesn't ask, by the way? Or what he doesn't say? I would think this would be his time for the monologue that explains the moral issue right there. You know what? Isn't it wrong how they've blended pagan practices and ideas with the swirling water and Jesus could say that, and I'm just tired of that. Or he could say, you know what? I am tired of the abuse that you people are taking here. Go home. Or he could say a lot of things. He could say, he didn't diagnose the guy. He didn't sit there and give a diagnosis for why this guy was so needy or why he was sick or even why it wasn't working. That's not what's necessary, apparently. He asked him the question, do you want to get well? Clearly, he's trying to get the guy to think, right? And the guy turns and says, I can't get in the pool. I can't get in the pool. If I could get in the pool. And I think what that guy is expecting Jesus to say is, help me get into the pool so that I can get healed. And I know what you're thinking already, right? Jesus is supposed to get his disciples, 12 of them, and block everybody when it starts to swirl, so Jesus might even carry him down in there so he can get healed. No, he wants this guy to realize, you're asking me to get you into the pool of God's mercy with the strategy that you've been playing out for the last 38 years, and it's not working. Let's clarify what you're asking. You spent so much time on your strategy that you've lost the main point. Because I'm here, and I don't need the pool, and since I don't need the pool, you don't need the pool. We don't even need to talk about the pool. Matter of fact, the pool is called the mercy of God, but the mercy of God is standing right in front of you in person. And he doesn't say any of that to you. He says, pick up your mat and walk. And I think Jesus is making it crystal clear. Things are different now. This is different. My yes, Jesus' yes, into the situation. Instead of going into the guy's chaos. Now, he goes into the guy where his need is, but he doesn't enter into the guy's strategy and chaos and cray, the craziness of his situation. Instead of doing that, he invites the guy into his peace. his shalom as it ought to be. Shalom means peace, not just peaceful, easy feeling, but peace, everything's complete as it ought to be. Whoa! Are you getting the picture of what it is to engage in saying yes to needy people? We actually bring our peace into their chaos instead of taking on their chaos and wrecking our peace. And we do that because we're full and we're seeing what our Father is doing. Oh, that's cool. What's underlying there about how Jesus handles overly needy people. Now, I've been looking at this for years, actually, and 3 stories come to my mind about how to apply it directly. One about an opera singer, one about a homeless person, and one about a dog fight. And let's do the opera singer. So I was a lead pastor in a church over in the Roaring Fork Valley, really super cool church. And my office was upstairs, and all the administrative offices were downstairs. This really nice building. There's this open staircase. And one day I was working, coming down to the office, talk to the support staff, and you have to walk by the door to the auditorium. It's a big auditorium, and in the auditorium there's this big grand piano. And so if you ever move the grand piano at all, just slide it from this part of the stage to the other stage part. All the piano people say it needs to be tuned. And so it's being tuned all the time. And there's only one guy in the area who can tune the piano. And this guy who tunes the piano, he has perfect pitch. He can hear, he doesn't even use his forks and machines and stuff to do it. He can hear it. And he sings perfectly on pitch. He's a Christian guy, doesn't go to church, kind of on the peripheral because no church, I don't know, probably would have him. I guess that's the opposite of how to say it, but he's awkward guy. Guy you want to tune the piano and then head off to somebody else's piano. And so I am walking by the door to the auditorium as he's tuning, and the door's open. I'm like, oh, the door's open. Pastor Charlie! Oh, God's given me a song for you, and he wants me to sing it to you now. And I'm like, record it and send it to me because I'm really busy. Thanks for that. That'll be really neat. I can say no good, can I? No, please. That's the last thing I want is the piano tuner singing me a song. Now, it's like he's an opera singer, so he sings really good. But thanks for that, and I go into the office. And I'm thinking, man, how am I going to get back up to my office so I can avoid the guy so that he is not going to sing the song to me, whatever the song is. And so I'm sneaking to the staircase, and he's hiding behind the wall. And he hears me there, and he like pops out. I about hurt myself. He pops out, and no, I really have to sing this song to you right now. No, please. And no, I do. Whoa! And he jumps into this opera song right there in front of me. I mean, it's like on pitch, but I'm going, no, leave me alone. And he's singing loud, and it's this big song, and it's getting bigger, and I'm backing up the stairs, and he is following me up the stairs as I'm singing this song, and I'm going, he has to stop now. If anybody on my team or in this church sees this guy serenading me on the stairs, I will never hear the end of this. And not only that, I have no idea what he's singing. I can never understand those opera guys anyway. I just know they're singing it good. But scary to me, and he's even scarier, and he's singing this thing to me, and I'm going, God, where do I go? Get him out of here. I'm praying, kind of, right? Of desperation, get him out of here. Get me out of here. How do I get out of here? Help me. I wasn't singing it out loud. I'm screaming it inside, right? Because pastors aren't supposed to be mean, right? I'm not supposed to say, stop, get out of here. And so, help me. Sometimes be careful when and what you pray. I hear or sense, or is so counterintuitive that it wasn't me, I hear this. Let the guy sing. Let the guy sing. No, let the guy sing. Let the guy sing. So I just turned. I put my hands down, and I let him sing. And he's just 4 feet away, projecting loud enough to be to the back of that wall. And he is singing like crazy. And there are way more verses than I anticipated. But God wanted me to let the guy sing. And what God was showing me was that I needed, because I'm not prone to do this, it's difficult for me, to be fully present. And I'm not going to be there long. This song's going to get over, and then I'm going to go back upstairs and do my thing. But for this moment, for this time, I needed to let the guy sing. Just like Jesus turns and says, do you want to get well? I see presence in that. I see connection in that. And I can tell you hundreds, maybe more, of times since that happened, 5 or 6 years, 7 years ago, I have heard that in my ear or in my imagination hundreds of times. Let the guy sing. It wasn't a person singing, but it was a person emoting. It was a person crying. It was a person with their hand out. It was a person with their fists clenched. It was in front of me. Matter of fact, I heard that at least 8 times this week. Let the guy sing. Be fully present. That's the story of the opera guy. The story of the homeless guy, a homeless lady. There's this lady who used to come to the church all the time, twice a week. You could tell back in the day that she was came from a place of privilege, and there was some glamour about her. She was in her mid-late 40s, but very weathered, looked way older and ill all the time. Instead of standing upright, she would come to the church and living out of her car for years, and she was meaner than anything you can imagine. She only knew one way to get her needs met was to push, manipulate, make you feel guilty. She'd come to the church, and she'd tell us how wrong we are for not helping her, even when we were helping her. Her strategy was to try and make you feel as guilty as possible so that you might do something, because she wasn't thinking about the next day or all the relationships that she's broke. Matter of fact, the office staff, since it's sort of public here, we used to lock the door when she would come. No, don't let Jacqueline, her name was Jacqueline, don't let Jacqueline in because it's going to be bad, and she's going to yell, and and she smells so bad. And we wouldn't want I won't even go there. The point is, Jacqueline was a mess. And we helped her along with other churches. But I looked at her and I went, God, what is going on? What's going on with Jacqueline? What happened? Didn't get a lot on that. But why is she doing what she's doing? I'm in the diagnosis. I didn't get a lot on that. Well, finally, after weeks, I started to figure out how God wanted me to pray about it. How do you see Jacqueline? We see her like this, and we run. How do you see her? And over weeks of watching this dysfunction, watching this clamor, watching all this weird behavior, I started to get a picture of, instead of her being returned to her glamorousness, I could see God's gloriousness on her. I could start to see God's glory. I started to get a picture in my mind of how God sees her. And it wasn't like she was. It was with a beauty that you could only see if you had God's eyes on it, I guess. It was with you could start to see that she was very special. She's very special in the kingdom. And a matter of fact, I got to see that, you know what? She is one of God's precious, not just in general, but specifically daughters or even princesses. So then, what am I to do with that? Well, tell her. I felt like as I prayed about that over another couple weeks, well, tell her. Start to call it out. And she'd walk in, I'm going to get, and I'd say, Jacqueline, it was pretty strong. Jacqueline, that is not who you are. You know who you are? You are a dearly loved, beautiful daughter of your heavenly Father, and you are royalty. You know what royalty does? They're not worried about what they're going to get next because they already have it. They're thinking about the citizens of the kingdom. Wait, here's why I tell you about Jacqueline. Because when you tell her who she was, because actually, you know what? You're sitting here right now, and I don't know who you think you are, but you're more than you think you are. And Jacqueline's easy to make this transformation of how ugly, yucky, terrible behavior, and look at a person's behavior, but that's not who they are. Matter of fact, I don't think people can get out of that murkiness, out of that mud and mire, not knowing who they are. Maybe somebody needs to tell them. Maybe somebody needs to tell them who they are. Jacqueline would transform before your very eyes. She would transform before your very eyes. She would turn, you are right, that is who I am. It was like a complete transformation over and over again. And I came here before we had have completely helped Jacqueline, but my understanding is now she is back where she came from, in a home with a job, and operating to a degree, I guess, in the beauty of who she is. I think you got to call people out. C.S. Lewis, throw the C.S. Lewis quote up here. I thought this was pretty profound. C.S. Lewis in The Weight of Glory says, it's a serious thing to live in a society of possible gods and goddesses, to remember that the dullest, most uninteresting or ugliest or meanest or smelliest person you can talk to may one day be a creature which, if you saw it now, you would be strongly tempted to worship. There are no ordinary people. You have never talked to a mere mortal. Even when they're talking to you like this, or they won't stop talking, or they're drawing you into their drama, or they're trying to get you to do something for them that doesn't make sense, or their strategy doesn't work, like trying to get you into a swirling pool, all that kind of stuff, they are great. And if you could see that, I think that would be a lot of help. We got to speak to them the way they are. Be present, speak to them who they are. Then how about the dogfight? I don't really have the time for the dogfight, but I can't talk to you about meeting the needs without giving you the dogfight. So a couple months ago, we were at a potluck lunch with Kaya gals, and we brought our little dog, actually my daughter's little dog, Starla, which is a blue heeler, and it's a runt blue heeler, so it's a smaller dog, and she doesn't know that she's a runt, or I don't know what she knows, but she acts like she's much bigger than she actually is. And so we are having our potluck there, and one of the other gals brings their dog. And their dog is, her dog is a cute pit bull, if that can be. It was kind of, I think all the years of living in that family, I'm expecting that pit bull was just a lovely pet. But my dog snapped at her dog, and her dog was no longer a lovely pit bull. It was what it was bred to do. It turned and attacked our little dog. And the owner grabbed that dog real quick, and we grabbed our dog, and she took that dog out, and oops, forgot to put on the big harness collar thing, around the shoulders of that pit bull. And now that she comes back with the pit bull secured in that harness, and that pit bull sees our little dog, Starla. I got to tell you the name just so you get the Starla feeling. And that pit bull rips out of that harness straight onto our dog in the FLC. We're inside over here in the FLC. And all the gals are going, stop, oh no, stop. And I don't know how much you can yell at a pit bull to get it to change, but not enough there. And so somebody has to do something. And while I don't have a problem saying no, I also don't have a problem getting into a dog fight apparently. So I jumped on this dog and pinned this dog. The dog has my dog's head in its mouth. My dog's head, or my daughter's dog's head, is almost can't see it because the dog's mouth is over it. And I have got the dog, the pit bull, under me, pinned to the ground, and all I can do, and they lock. You know how this works? You dog people know how this works. They don't come undone. And I'm pulling this dog's face open, and I'm beating it in the side of the head. And it won't let go. And I'm pulling. This has all happened so quick. It's not something you think about, right? So I am starting to smack it in the face, and I'm pulling it. Everybody's yelling, and my dog's screaming. And I kind of get a little bit of loose, and my dog gets his head out of just a little bit, and I get bit. I get bit hard. I mean hard. You can feel just think about it, teeth going in. Not that bit kind of like bit where, I want you to leave me alone bit. Bit like I'm trying to save my life here. I got bit by my own dog. Yeah, by my own dog. And that just made, we got to get this over with quick. and I pulled it open, and I don't know how that happens. Lift up a car, open up a pit bull. I don't know how that works. And they grabbed our dog, and she's all bloody and torn up, and her ears are all messed up. Still kind of alive. I don't know that for sure. And after we get the dog off, there's blood everywhere, and most of it is mine, actually. And as the EMT guy is helping me with my dog bites, which were very deep, I'm thinking, I got bit by the dog I'm trying to save. What is up with that? I was saving this dog's life, and it bit me. Doesn't it know? It's just, no, it doesn't know. It's flailing around for its life. I don't even know if I need to finish the point. We go in and we help people because we are full and we are fully present, and we call out who they are and how God sees them. And we are hoping they turn and go, thank you. Thank you for that. Just a thank you would be good. I don't need much. Matter of fact, I don't even need you to say anything. But to turn and bite me, to turn and actually respond in a way that's biting the hand that feeds them, I'm not sure that we can really jump in and help people if we're not willing to get bit a little bit. If we're not willing to be present, call out who they are, and recognize that it's not a transaction, and it doesn't need to be a transaction. I don't help you so that you help me. I don't help you and give you this, expecting that one day you're going to give me that. I can't even expect you to like me, because that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I'm full with the presence of Jesus to bring peace into a situation. I can tell you story after story. Don't have time. We bought a lady a house who didn't like us, who cussed us out for the house because it wasn't like she wanted. The reality was she needed a house. She needed a house, and we don't do it because she turns and likes us. That's kind of helpful, I think. If you're going to say yes, eyes wide open. Because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But when you do, you may be encountering the greatest opportunity to express the vision of this church, of loving God and loving people. You know what? If I am working on loving God and loving people only with the people who love me back, or the people who like me, or the people who think I'm neat, that's good. But that's not really expressing it. Step into it when they don't love you back. That's when the vision of loving God and loving people, of that commandment, really happens. And I got to tell you, Jesus, just like he did here, still does this. Don't look at this section as a teaching on healing. Look at it as a teaching on connecting. It tells you some things about healing, which is cool, but it just tells you something about people, which is even better. And it tells you something about God, which is even better. And it tells you something about who you are, which is even better. And Jesus still does this, and he still does this through you. And so, when you do for the one, and you do for the one, and then you do for the one, and you bring your peace to the one, and you step into another situation that was chaotic, and you bring your peace into it, and you do it for the one, and you do it for the one, and you do it for the one, God does it for the many. You don't have to meet everybody's needs. Just do it for the one, and he will do it for the many. And then what will happen is shalom will happen to a region. Shalom is the Hebrew word for peace. Everything's as it should be, complete, and life is different for everyone, because there were a bunch of Jesus followers who stepped into needy situations instead of saying no, and said yes, because they were full, they were present, they were calling out who people were, and they were willing to get bit. So now you can run to the needy instead of run from the needy. And then you can let your yes be yes. That's what I got to say.
Yeah, good job, Pastor.
Thank you.
This was so good. Hey, you guys can follow up with it this week. Share it with a family member or a friend. You can talk about it. We actually have really smart people that develop a what we call Talk It Over online. And so you can take it from the weekend to the middle of the week into action. Pastor Charlie was actually telling me he was praying for needy people to come his way so that he can practice these things. I think we should do the same. So, hey, if you guys want to give on your way out, there's boxes, or you can do it online. We just want to say thank you for coming. And hey, next weekend, we are doing baptisms at the river. It's so cool, so awesome. So if you want to get baptized, you can register online, or if you just want to come and support or somebody you know, it's the best place to do it. Last thing, if you're new or newish to Steamboat Christian Center, stop by our welcome party. It's just out and to the left over into our other building. We just want to get to know you, say hi for 5 minutes, and connect with you. Hey, thanks for coming today, guys. We will see you next week.